When I was in junior high and high school, I was in a few different types of musicals as well as plays, and I had the great fortune to play leads in a few of those musicals and plays, and I got to experience what it was like to play a character and live as if I were the character. And I had the opportunity after the whole play was done was that everybody came out and everybody was no longer in character anymore, and the audience was whistling and clapping, and it was just a beautiful sight to see. And everybody, we all came together and we all bowed to the audience, and everybody knew that it was a play, everybody knew that it was a musical, everybody knew that it was going to be an experience. Even the actors knew that it was going to be the experience, right? And this leads me into the topic for today, which I'm not really sure what the title is going to be exactly. All I know is that right now I have something to say about this topic in regard to Semen Retention Sunday. And if you're a Regal Change old timer here, you understand that we do Semen Retention Sunday episodes every Sunday. And so one thing that I've been pondering about is the character of Thaddeus, and recalling and remembering those youthful experiences and thinking about the symbolism behind it and the mechanisms and the structure of reality in which that really is how most of this life is. There's going to be people that are going to be in the audience. They're going to be wanting to experience what the main actors are doing and saying. And even the people who are the antagonists in the musical are being cheered on at the very end. And I was never the antagonist in these musicals and plays that I was in, but I noticed that even they would get applause. For example, I was Horton in Horton Hears the Who for one of these plays, and the monkeys and the kangaroo. If you know what the story of the Horton Hears a Who is, then you understand that these were the antagonists for so long. They didn't believe that there was Who's down in Whoville on a speck. They didn't believe that. And so there were worlds within worlds, and there were perceptions of reality within perceptions of reality. And so this leads me into how semen retention almost forces you to crush your identity. You're not really lost. After a certain point in semen retention, you might feel lost. You're not lost, you just hit an identity ceiling. And that identity ceiling is going to determine how you move forward and what you want to do. You realize that this is all a show. This is all a show. This is all, and it doesn't make it meaningless. It just means that now you get to create the meaning in your own timeline, depending on how you view and value in of itself. So one of these things that I've been thinking about recently as well is Jesus Christ, and I've been thinking about this for a few months now, but really especially since developing the Regal timeline theory. And those that are Regal Change old timers, they know what I'm talking about here. And Jesus Christ, I've basically verified my way out of believing in Jesus Christ. Now, I'm not denying Jesus Christ. What I'm saying is that I see that there's a difference between belief, faith, and knowing. And belief and faith in Jesus Christ, it honestly never really got me to the place that I thought it was going to get. And I never got to the being in which I thought I was going to be. And a lot of people who are Christian would say, well, that's part of following Christ. It's like, well, yeah, it is. But if you perceive Christ as a physical being, it's going to limit you in how you perceive God. And I used to believe that I was a man who saw Jesus Christ, God in the flesh, outside of himself. This doesn't mean that I didn't know the kingdom of God was within me. It just means that I still perceived God as outside of me, technically, even though I knew God, the kingdom of God, was inside me. But now I see that I'm a God experiencing what it's like to be a man. And that has been a very powerful shift. And I'm not saying that I am God himself. I'm not saying that I worship myself. I'm not saying these things. I'm saying that as an immortal soul, by definition, that makes us gods. And Jesus Christ even said that. You're gods. He said that, according to the story. And this is another thing that's been so fascinating to me about Jesus Christ in the story, because he was on semen retention, right? Obviously, he never participated in those adulterous behaviors or fornications or anything of the sort, never was married. And he was someone who, and according to the stories, right? Because again, we can't truly verify the story. We can say there were witnesses, we can say that people died for their beliefs and all that. Okay, well, what about 9/11? People bombed, like Twin Towers based off of their beliefs. We can't really say that, oh, well, people died for their beliefs. Okay, people die for their beliefs all the time. It doesn't make it true. Dying for beliefs is somewhat of a banality at this point in time. And yet, at the same time, people are clinging on to these lies. And I'm not saying that Jesus Christ is a lie, okay? What I'm saying is that the fact that there's even a story that we can all see that and perceive, that in of itself is the most powerful. Because time itself is perceived differently from other people. And if you operate from a place of timelessness instead of timefulness, meaning that in timelessness, you don't need to have good and evil. You don't need to have good guys or bad guys. It just is, right? It's the play. It's the musical. It's the music of life. Friedrich Nietzsche would say something along the lines of, the people dancing were thought crazy to the ones who could not hear the music. And that's a very poetic way to say that many people are still caught up in the illusion of good and evil, and they're still caught up in the illusion because the ego needs an enemy. The ego needs an enemy. And what if you're the enemy to your own ego? What then? And that's really something that I'm not saying that you shouldn't have an ego necessarily, but what I'm saying is that you have to learn how it's behaving and why it's behaving the way that it does. Semen retention allows you to see this, like getting women and getting the finances, all these surface level things when it comes to semen retention. Yes, you have to be allured by your senses to get to that deeper place down the line, but semen retention is about way more than that. It's about letting God crush you and being okay with whatever happens as it happens, and truly accepting the dance for what it is, the play for what it is. Because who am I exactly? Who is Thaddeus? Why am I participating in such a way in this existence? Why am I living in such a way in this existence? Is there a meaning behind it? Everything seems meaningless. Maybe everything is meaningless, but maybe I can create the meaning because that's the way that it is, because there is an objective truth. Like, these are the types of things that you're going to get to down the line, right? Because you're not really listening to Thaddeus here. You're listening to a version of yourself who is just giving you certain perceptions of the objective reality through your subjective and my subjective experience. Thaddeus is a character. And this is not to say that, oh, I don't exist. Oh, I'm so depressed. No, I'm not depressed. I'm not anxious. I'm actually very calm. And I'm actually very relaxed and in a state of serene quality, even though I know that this is an act. This is a play. This doesn't make the ego less real. It doesn't make the persona less real. It doesn't make the shadow or the anima or the animus or the integration of those therein any less real. But this is also where I differentiate between real and true. It is real that the story of Jesus Christ is very powerful. It is real that the person who we perceive to be the image of God as Jesus Christ is real. Does that make it true, though? Well, nobody can really prove that he existed. Nobody can really verify that. And I'm not saying that that makes the story or the teachings of Jesus Christ any less potent. In fact, quite the contrary. Because even if someone did have that writing as a literary masterpiece, whoever wrote that, I mean, we have a historical understanding, but do we have the true historical understanding? Because there have been resets upon resets over the past 2,000 plus years in our civilization. And each reset, there's something, just look at the story of the Alexandria Library. Who knows how much true history, not real history, true history, real in the sense that we don't understand what the illusion is, right? Whereas true is it actually was. What has happened, and what is happening is happening. This is all just a show that is happening. And it doesn't make it less real, but there's a script that some people want you to be on. There's a script. It's kind of like when the actor breaks the fourth wall, right? If the actor breaks the fourth wall when he's acting, then he's, oh, but what he doesn't know is blah, 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 blah. And then they go back to it. What exactly do you think that is? Why do you think Shakespeare did that? Because historians are kind of like that person breaking the fourth wall. They're actors, but they're breaking the fourth wall. So we have to think about truth differently than when we think about reality. Because again, who knows how much truth was behind the Alexandria Library. And the more you go on semen retention, and the longer I don't like to call it a streak, but the longer your streak goes, just to be practical here, the longer your streak goes, the more that you're going to have to offer to yourself, really. And the more that you're going to see that you're going to have to be crushed. You're going to have to be crushed by the existence. The avalanche of existence is going to have to crash down upon you one way or another. And a lot of people are still stuck in their identity, to their faith, to their belief, even when they can't verify it. Do you know how crazy that is? It's like the globe people instead of the flat earth people. Flat earthers, I'm not saying I'm a flat earther, I'm not saying I'm a globe person, I don't believe, I'm just saying this is an example, right? Flat earthers, they have a pretty solid argument. They can say oh, prove the earth is flat. Okay, well, here's a laser, and I'm going to shoot it across the ocean. And that laser is going to hit directly straight forward. So explain that, explain that. If the world is a globe and round, the laser, obviously if the laser is shooting straight and the earth is round, well then there should be like a point in which the laser wouldn't be able to beam across the ocean or the sea or whatever and hit something else. But it does. Okay, well, that's a pretty compelling, verifiable fact. Okay, then you look at the people who believe the world is a globe. Okay, how do you verify that? Oh, well, the government said so. The government and NASA, who has repeatedly and openly lied to you for decades about pandemics and the ways in which elections are run and the ways in which pharmaceuticals are handled. The people who have been lying to you the most and gaslighting you the most for the last, this is where you're getting your information from. You know, in that instance, one's verifiable, one's not, right? So you can believe these people that are telling you certain things. You can believe anything you want, but you might be putting yourself into a Stockholm syndrome type of situation. And even with semen retention, don't take my word for it. If you truly don't feel like you're getting results or benefits or whatnot, number one, think about your intentions. You know, if it's just to get more women or more finances or whatever, or you're trying to be more spiritual, don't even try to be more spiritual. Don't even try to self-improve. Don't even try to be something. Like just be something. Just be, and be okay with being the actor, not really knowing what the character is and just figuring it out as he goes along. I mean, that's what most characters in movies or plays or musicals do anyway. You know, it's always a form of self-discovery. And think about the type of interactions with movies and with stories that we always have. There's always this sense of the hero being an orphan, right? Think about Hercules and think about Simba. You know, think about Harry Potter. You know, all these hero archetypes are orphans, and they're totally misunderstood by the world, and they've just had so many traumatic things happen to them that it's super hard to do the right thing, and yet they do the right thing anyway. And the right thing is just because they want to make the world a little bit of a better place. They're not trying to change the world. They're just trying to do what they can with what they have. And honestly, I think that that's the true power of semen retention, is that you realize that, you know, you're limited with this reality to some degree. Now, you as a soul, you're not limited at all. You're a god experiencing what it's like to be human. But that's exactly it, right? Like that's exactly it. So the thing is that this is a great parable to the story of Jesus Christ as well, right? Because the story of Jesus Christ involves God himself coming down to become man. Okay, think about symbolically what that means for you. Not what it means for Jesus Christ, what it means for you. And then Jesus Christ in the story even tells you that you're going to do greater things than he is. That you are God's. He came to show you how amazing and awesome you are. You are amazing. You are created by God. You don't need to believe or have faith. You can just be it. Prayer, for me, I don't pray anymore. Prayer is no longer something I do anyway. To pray is to participate in a quality of life. Why pray to something or someone when I can just be it? Prayer is a form of communication with the divine. But who's to say that that's not you right now? Who's to say that you communicating with your present self and your self-talk, like who's to say what exactly the difference is? Now, I'm not saying you should worship yourself. What I'm saying is that, or idolize yourself. What I'm saying is that recognize that you are experiencing this life. This is just an experience. This is a play. And semen retention will help you dissolve all of these traumas, all these emotional tensions, everything possible that is standing in your way. And it'll crush you sometimes, because the identity to these ideas, or your identity to religion or to politics, or even the places that you live, your friends, I mean, it can be staggering, the implications of perceiving your identity in a certain way and realizing that it's an illusion. Now, here's the thing that you have to ask yourself, and this is what I've been asking myself specifically with the story of Jesus Christ. It's like, well, let's assume then, hypothetically, that Jesus Christ really is God. Does that cancel? Like, does my viewpoint now cancel that fact? If that fact is true? Not at all. So a lot of Christians will probably be upset with me. Even the same with Muslims and such. Like, the reason that I'm speaking so much about Jesus Christ in this video is because, well, I truly believed and felt, and in my faith, that I experienced Jesus Christ as God. Like he is God. I felt that. I experienced that. That was real. For years, that was real. And it's not to say that it's an illusion necessarily. It's just that I have a different perspective now. It's the rock and the river metaphor and the parable. Let's say that there's a rock here in the river, and now there are multiple people around different parts of the river, and they're all looking at this rock that is emerging from the water. One person thinks that the rock is flat. Well, from that other person's perspective, the rock looks round. And maybe from someone else's perspective, it looks like there's moss on it or something. But you can't always see different perspectives until you move around to see the perspective. What's real is the rock. Everybody agrees that there's a rock. It's the same thing with the story of Jesus Christ. Everybody believes, and they don't even need to believe, right? They don't even need to believe. They can perceive that there is a rock there. There is a rock. There is a story. Everybody's view about it is different, but there is a story. There is a rock. I think I said everything that I needed to say now for this video. But really, the aim is to alleviate these identities toward things that just are meaningless for no reason. And you're applying meaning to things that are only inflating your sense of self. It's like the kangaroo and the monkeys in Horton Hears a Who, where Horton is like, well, a person's a person no matter how small. That's wow, I just had like a big revelation there. So yeah, a person's a person no matter how small. The people on the speck where Horton the elephant is holding the clover, when he tells the kangaroo and the monkeys about, in the jungle world, not in Whoville, in the jungle world, that these people actually exist. There's actually there's a world on this speck. They don't believe him, and so they try to kill the speck because Horton is they think Horton's gone crazy. And I suppose in many ways I feel like Horton right now, because I feel as though, again, there's that feeling of the character flowing through me, right? It's just the experience. The experience itself is enough. That's really the main point here, is the experience itself is enough. You don't need to believe or have faith in anything if you can trust your own experience. and know that, yeah, there are going to be real experiences that feel very real, but that doesn't make it true. But that's enough, though. For the time being, that's enough. So with all that being said, stay blessed. Peace. Until next time.